Hey everyone, it's your girl Alexis Ine, and I'm here with yet another video. So today I'm going to be talking about my testimony, how I came to Christ. If this is your first time ever watching my channel, it basically consists of just my relationship with Jesus, my time with family, my time with friends, and a little bit of encouragement as well as some prophecy. So without further ado, let's get into the video. And please comment if you can relate, or just comment anything that you noticed in the video and that you would like to comment on. So let's start from the beginning. Okay, so I don't think I've ever shared my testimony, so this will be my first time. So if you see me looking like up or down, like that's just kind of me processing and like thinking about some things. But okay, so the first time I've encountered Jesus was my first time coming into this world. And when I say that, I mean there's always been some tussle with the enemy. So when I was a baby, my mom had to have a C-section because my heart rate was decreasing. And so they had to get me out as soon as possible, or they would have lost me. And so that's just a testament in itself of the grace of God, the love of God, and how he's protected me. But I did get saved at a young age, and for those who don't know what saved or salvation is, it's when you come into agreement with Jesus Christ. When you say, Lord, I want you to be the Lord and Savior of my life. And the Bible says in Romans 10:9, you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So if you say that and you believe it in your heart and you confess it with your mouth, you will be saved. You don't have to go out in the church and fall out. You don't have to do all of these things that we've been taught in the church that you have to do to be saved. I just felt really led to say that because at the church we fantasize things sometimes and make it more than what it actually is. But honestly, if you say those things, you will be saved. And one more thing I want to add to that. Sometimes we say that baptism makes you saved, but it really doesn't. Baptism is like a declaration. It's a public declaration of showing, you know, that you've accepted Jesus into your heart. So I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest and say it. But I got saved at a young age. I believe I was around 9 or 10. I know how people are like, oh my goodness, I was saved at 6 years old, da da da. I really don't know what age I got saved. I can just remember the night. So I kept seeing like, oh my goodness, if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to hell if you don't do that. So I was very fearful of God when I came into salvation. I knew, I guess, that he was loving, but I also knew that he was someone that you did not want to play with, because if you crossed him, you could end up dead and you could go to hell. So that was my perception of God coming into salvation. And so my stepdad and my mom, I told my stepdad that I really wanted to get saved. And so he said all the words, and it's like in my stomach I could just feel like butterflies without seeing, like I didn't see anything, but I just knew like I made the right decision. And so from that young age, I can just see it in my head. I can't really tell you all the time, like what age I was, but I can just see it in my head. I can visualize it. And it was just such a freeing experience for me. Like I was just like, wow, like I made the right decision. And mind you, I got saved several times as a young kid because I thought that I was going to hell. I was like, dang, like I just need to make sure, I need to double check that I don't go to hell. And that's one more thing that I want to clear up. Once you accept Jesus, you accept Jesus and you cannot go to hell. Like that is your right. It's like your birthright. It's like your ticket. Like Jesus is your ticket to heaven. So a lot of people think, oh, you know, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and it's not about works. Our salvation is not about works. Mind you, We don't do things to constantly sin. We don't do things to constantly, you know, take God's love for granted. We don't do that. However, we strive to be better each day, and it's not about what we can do, because Jesus already did it for us. Like my friend Tamia says all the time, like, if it was on us, why would we need Jesus? So I just want to put that in everyone's mind. So going back to my testimony, so yeah, I got saved several times because I was just like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to play with God. I don't want to, you know, go to hell. But leading up to, I wasn't even in middle school yet when I got saved. I think I was about to hit middle school. I went to private school for half, like it was half and half. I went to private school for some of my time in school, and then I went to public school. The reasons I would go to or the reason I went to private school was because a lot of the public institutions weren't that great education wise. So my stepdad, he researched a lot. Like, research is his thing. So every time we went somewhere, he would research the schools and all that, and he noticed how the public schools, like their education system wasn't that great, or, you know, the secular environment. My parents really wanted to protect me from that. So that's why I went to private school like 5th grade, and then I would just kind of flip-flop. And so I don't remember it being hard for me. I remember wanting to read the Bible. I remember being excited about learning. Like, I would love to go to children's church and just learn something new. Like, the best church that we went to was called New Beginnings in Missouri, and I just enjoyed myself so much. There was such a spirit of freedom there, like a spirit of unity there, and I just could feel it as a kid. Like, I loved it. And now this is like when I am in middle school, and I can just remember just reading the Bible, and I loved it. So more of my rockier years came in when I started noticing the abuse. So I was in an abusive household. My stepdad was verbally abusive to my mom, to me, and it had an effect on me, like really, really bad. So I believe I was in, honestly, at the beginning of their marriage, I noticed things and I would tell my mom things, but she kind of brushed it off, like, oh, you know, like, you don't really know, like, it's okay, like, you know, you just don't say that, you know. Like, she would just really brush it off. So it made me feel invalidated, made me feel like I wasn't heard. It made me sad. And so I just noticed these things. Like, I can even remember, like, because my mom used to date guys. Like, dating was the thing. I mean, it's still the thing now, but it's not how it was when my mom was dating. Like, she would actually go on dates with guys, and I could just discern things at a young age. Like, I knew, like, some guys, like, I would really enjoy to be around. Other guys, I was like very, like, standoffish, or I would distance myself because I could just feel it, like, in my spirit, like something's off with this person. And I felt that with my stepdad. And so when she came back with the news that she's married, and when I say came back, I know I gotta give you guys some background really quick. So my mom was in the military, so she would go overseas and I would stay with my grandmother. So when I say came back, she came back to the United States from her time away. I believe she was in Afghanistan, or she was in Iraq. She would take some time away for Iraq for mission duty, and then she would come back. And when she came back, they met that time in Iraq. And so when she came back, they were engaged, and everything was happening so fast. So I felt like my world was changing so fast, and I didn't like it. I didn't like him, and I just already knew, like, something was off. I can even remember on their wedding day, I cried, and everyone thought that I was crying out of excitement for my mom and out of, you know, excitement for them. But I was crying because I knew my world would change. I knew that he wasn't that great of a guy. Like, I could just feel it. But, you know, going along with my mom, you can't really do anything. They just got married. And so because of him being in the military, because both of my parents were in the military, but my mom was in a different branch, and once they got married, she got out of the military. So she was in the Air Force, he was in the Army. Once she got out, we're an Army family now. And so the reason we were in Missouri at the church that I explained to you all was because of him. So I love this church, I enjoyed it, but I also noticed the abuse. And I can't really give you guys word for word, verbatim, everything, but I can just tell you, like, my stepdad, he made me feel less confident in myself. He made me feel like I was never good enough. He like, you have to walk on eggshells around him, because you just don't know what he's gonna say, you don't know what he's gonna do. And at one point we started eating healthier, because like I said, my stepdad, he researched a lot of things, and so he saw that organic food was better for us, which I'm grateful for him. Looking back on it now, I'm grateful that he changed our eating habits, because it was good for us. But he would also, like, just explode if we ate, like, you know, McDonald's fries. Like, he would get so mad, like, why, like, he would tell my mom, like, why are you feeding them that junk, why are you doing this, why? And it was a hot mess. Like, he would just always be like, you know, Lexi, you're lazy, you know, you eat junk, different things like that. And during this whole time, like, I don't really have a good relationship with my dad. So all of these things are coming into play. I'm having a relationship with God. Well, not really. Like, I don't think I have an actual relationship with God. I just know that I love him. I know that I made the right decision, and I'm going on with life from there. So going on to about 13 to 16, I was just really sad. And I didn't really have my dad in my life. I would go visit him, but it wasn't the same as actually living with my dad. And my dad, he's not saved. He has no background in Christianity. And I didn't even say that. My mom and my stepdad, they were more religious than my dad was. Like, my dad doesn't have any affiliation with it. And he was just kind of just more secular. Like, he was secular, not more secular, he was secular. And he listened to all kinds of music, he watched all kinds of different things. So I was just like, wow, okay. So it was just a different culture at his house. So I would go visit his house for, like, holidays. So or one holiday out of every few years I would go over there. Like Christmas, okay, this year I'm going to my dad's, and every time something would happen, like a fallout, and I was just like, wow. And but anyway, so these things had an effect on my confidence. These things had an effect on, you know, why doesn't my dad want me? Why doesn't he love me? Even my stepdad, why doesn't he want me? Why doesn't he love me? Two men that were in my life, I felt like, you know, I should have been their baby girl, and I didn't get that. And so not having that really just made, I don't know if it really made my heart hard, but it made me sad. And getting the abuse from my stepdad all the time, like, even now he hasn't really changed, but it's like, it's hard being around that. And so 16, or let's go to 14. Sorry guys, I'm skipping around. I'm trying to give you guys, like, how my life has been going and how I really came to know Jesus. And so at 14 years old, I'm in high school now, and I go, for my 9th grade year, I go to a Christian school. And I didn't like it at all, because the Christian school they have favorites, and I was not their favorite because I am a brown girl. There's racism there, there's so many different things there, and I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. So my parents get on board, my mom more so than my stepdad, because, mind you, I've been living with them this whole time. I would go visit my dad every blue moon. And so I go to public school. Mind you, I haven't been in a different environment in a while. So, like, hearing curse words all the time, Just things are moving way faster than I expected, but I was excited for this new change. And I love dance, and they have a dance team, so I'm like super excited. So I go to public school, and it's just different, and I'm like, okay, like this is gonna be great, you know, this is gonna be so great. And it wasn't bad, like I wasn't treated bad, like people were welcoming of me, but I started noticing my skin tone became an issue. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough. I kept having these thoughts of, you know, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not worthy, maybe I'm not just enough, you know, because these people don't see me as enough, because they like, oh, you're too dark, you know, they turn the lights off, they're like, where's Alexis? And it's just different things like that. And I had a light-skinned best friend at the time, and she had a bigger build for her age, a bigger bottom, and guys noticed that, and they would go to her, and they would get to me to get to her. And so that made me feel like, wow, like, you know, I'm really just not it, you know. And even during this time, like my relationship with God, it wasn't really there, because we didn't really have a good church home here. Like it was nice, but it wasn't like, it's like my love for God, it kind of started diminishing every time we moved to a different place, because it wasn't the same as the place, the church, New Beginnings. It wasn't the same. Like I didn't feel the freedom, I didn't feel the unity. And not to say you go to follow God off of a feeling, but at that young age, I didn't know what I know now. And so I was just like, okay, you know, I just kind of just went with the flow. It wasn't like I'm gonna go pursue or chase God, you know. So yeah, even with the guys, I felt low self-esteem. Or if the guys saw me, you know, they would make fun of my skin tone, or they would make fun of my lips, or they would just make inappropriate comments about my lips, and I just hated it. And I grew very suicidal. I just felt like, you know, no one wants me. If this happens, you know, it won't matter. You know, if I do this now, it wouldn't change a thing. The world will go on. Like I really started feeling that in a dark place, because the abuse increased. My relationship with my dad, it just kind of, it was okay, you know, but I wasn't seeing my dad on a regular basis. And I just felt alone a lot of the time. Even with the whole friendship situation, like I had the girl as a best friend, but I just also felt like she got a lot of the shine, and you know, there was no room for me. And so yeah, high school though, after that situation, it kind of got a little bit better. I think I was still suicidal though, all of high school. People would get upset with me because I guess I was just so bubbly in the morning. Like I was very like, just like, oh my goodness, hey, like how are you? People would not like that in the morning. They're like, you're too bubbly for me in the morning. So I felt like a lot of my personality I had to suppress, but I didn't. Like I guess in high school I just didn't care, you know. I was more carefree. I kind of just did my own thing, like like. However, I also felt deep down like I want to kill myself, and no one would care if I did. I can even remember maybe between the years of 14, 15, and 16, I believe I was 15, I had a knife and I just put it straight to my stomach, and to see how far I could push it in. And that was probably one of the darkest moments that I had, and the closest moments I had to suicide, or one of them. I had another moment, but that one was the first one, and it was the darkest one, and I just couldn't handle the abuse anymore. Like I loved being at school, however, you know, I was getting comments and stuff at school, but a part of me cared, a part of me didn't care. But I also just didn't want to go home. Like I was just like, man, like they're fighting all the time, you know. I'm getting these rude comments like my stepdad could care less if I'm here. And the reason I thought that he could care less is because I have 2 brothers, and I actually have 3, but 2 of them that I live with, they are my stepdad's children. And because they are his, it felt like when he had my first brother, it just felt like he changed towards me. Like, you're not mine, I could care less. And I could feel it. Like, he didn't have to say it, like I could just feel the shift in how he treated me. And so I was like, man, like. And then my other brother came along, and it just kind of felt like who is she, you know? And so I always felt like they were the picture perfect. My mom, my stepdad, and my 2 brothers were the picture perfect family without me. So I think that's also another thing that led to me feeling very just suicidal and very just like, who cares, you know, if I'm here or not. And yeah, it was very hard in high school. Like, if I did out myself, people would be like, I can't believe it, because I was so smiley and I was so happy at school. But when I got home, it was a different story. Like, it was a lot. So going from high school, like high school was pretty good. There were just things, you know, there were some comments that got to me. Senior year of high school, I got with the wrong group of girls, and when I say that, they were just a crowd that I normally wasn't with, and I guess I liked the thought of that, so I just constantly pursued their friendship, even though they kind of shunned me in a way, or, you know, they didn't really like me as much as they liked each other. I was like, okay, I want to be their friends, you know. And I was like, I just kept chasing after them, but they were not a good group of girls. Like, they cursed a lot, they called each other the B word. They just were not a good group of friends, and I don't know what kept me drawn to them, but I was. And I started drinking in high school. It was like very like towards the end of my senior year, I started drinking, and I was like, you know, this is me distancing myself from God. So this is the start of me distancing myself from God. This is like the senior year, the very end. It's called Sign, and it's where you spray paint your people's or everybody's shirt. They have a white shirt and gray sweats on, and you just spray paint it. And I was surprised my mom let me go to this, but she did. And you know, we just drank, we spray paint, did all that. And so that's when I really started getting into drinking. And yeah, it was just like a night. It was a very wild night. And yeah, I don't even want to relive it, but that summer was amazing. Like, I think I had a good time with family, and I was just very proud of myself for graduating high school, and just God getting me through. I was just very happy. And then freshman year of college came, and I can just remember this part of my life being just so distant from God. Like, I didn't really go to church in college. I did my own thing. I went out with friends. I started smoking weed. So yeah, I just felt like, you know, I was a curious Kathy. Like, I wanted to try things, and I wanted to have new experiences. And freshman year, I became involved with a guy. And I don't know why, but it was like, I was even talking to my mom the other day about this, but I guess like my generation felt like we needed to date online. So I just did, and I started doing that freshman year, and I got involved with a guy, and I really liked him a lot. Like, I really liked him, and a lot of my first were taken from me. Not, well, I can say sexually, not actually having sex, but a lot of my first were taken from me. Like, or I don't want to say taken from me, because it takes 2 to tango, but just spending the night with a guy, or, you know, hanging out with a guy for hours and being with all up under him, like that was what I started doing. And even sexually, like I let him know that I was a virgin, but he was like, well, okay. It's like he didn't have an issue with it, but we ended up doing other things sexually, and it was different, you know. And I was like I don't know, it just was such a time where I distanced myself from God. And so going along with that, that opened up a can of worms that I really didn't want open. And so I started, you know, being with other guys, and still my actual virginity hadn't been taken, but in a way my innocence was taken, and I was sharing them with other guys, and I started to just kind of go on the deep end. I started being even more suicidal. It wasn't as dark, I felt like, when I was with my parents, but at the same time I was like, you know, I'm just doing me at this point. And I did me for a while. I did me for about, from my freshman year to my junior year of college. I still believed in God, I still loved God, but I had my foot in the world. Like I wanted to do my own thing. And so I got involved with other guys. I'm still meeting guys on apps, but after the first guy that I talked about, I stopped being on the app as much because I really felt hurt from him just leaving. He just left, you know. We stopped communicating as much, and he disappeared. So from that I was like, okay. I started messing with other guys, and even with school, like I was doing well in school my freshman year, but after just hanging out with friends, doing what I want, even my GPA like decreased. Like everything was just slipping, and I was like, okay. I tried going to the services at church. I didn't feel like I could really relate, and things were just kind of happening fast, but I was also going with the flow. Like I wasn't pursuing God, I wasn't looking for God, even though I was saved. So yeah. And then my junior year hit, and I don't know if I'm ready to share this, but God told me to share my testimony, so I'm gonna share this part. But